Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of Matt Goes to the Movies. Thanks for checking out the latest edition here. And today we are going to be talking about The Matrix Resurrections way back when on Matt Goes to the Movies. It feels like way back when. I did a couple episodes on The Matrix for the first three movies in the trilogy. And for those movies, Rob had joined me. Longtime listeners of the show will remember Rob. And it only seemed fitting that he's back again for The Matrix Resurrection. So, Rob, something we probably never thought we were actually going to get because so much time had passed. But here we are. The Matrix Resurrections is reality.
Yeah, I can remember when this was announced, and it just really came out of nowhere. I think we were just stunned, like, holy cow, like, what is this going to be? And I'll always kind of remember, obviously, the first one was just such a groundbreaking movie that really changed a lot, not just in film, but in video games and so many other things in pop culture were really impacted by The Matrix. And I can remember having seen the second one a couple times, but hadn't seen it for a really long time. But it was really, for the purposes of the show, going back and rewatching it, that it actually turned my opinion around a little bit on it after giving it quite a bit of time. So I have a higher opinion of it now. It's still not a perfect movie, of course. It still does have a lot of problems, but it's better than I remembered it. And so I was really excited to get a chance to see the fourth one, and for better or for worse, we got the fourth one.
Yeah, I mean, you're so right about the first Matrix movie. It just really defined the genre at that time and really paved the way for so many things going forward, for better or worse, in terms of video games and movie effects. It seemed like everybody now wanted to cash in sort of on the Matrix freight train with how people were describing that movie. And I felt the same way. I wasn't really a fan of The Matrix Reloaded when it first came out. I remember it just feeling very, very bloated is the word that I will use. But over time, and especially rewatching it to do the podcast episodes, I liked it a lot more. Now, Revolutions was a movie that when it first came out, I know compared to like the average person that, in online reviews, I really liked Revolutions a heck of a lot more than most of the people that I talked to. I actually thought that was a really good movie. And I just remember at the time thinking like, okay, yeah, this is where the story ends, and just thought, boy, we'll never really get anything different. Or not anything different, but we'll never get a sequel to it. But again, here we are. So what we're going to do here is we're going to get into the watch rating. So first time listeners of the show, if this is your first episode, welcome. Watch rating is based on three tiers. Very simple. It's either high, medium, or low. So how rewatchable is this movie? And in this part of the show, this will be spoiler free. So we're just going to give a quick description of what we think of this movie, why we think the watch rating is what it is, before we get into actual spoiler territory. So Rob, on that scale of high, medium, low, I'm going to let you go first. Where does this movie sit for you? I know this is the second time that you've seen this movie as we're talking.
Yeah, so I think there was the reactions for this fourth movie are all over the place right now. When you and I talked briefly after we had both seen it initially, I think both of us were maybe a little disappointed. I was actually really looking forward to giving it a second watch because it was not the movie that I wanted, I guess, is the easiest way for me to describe my feelings when I turned it off on my initial viewing. So when I'm thinking about a watch rating, think back to the first Matrix film and think about how many scenes in that movie you absolutely love. They're iconic, they're classic, they stand out in your mind. They stand out not just in terms of how great of a scene they are for that first movie, but when you think about great scenes in all the movies you love, you can think of probably 5 or 6 from that first Matrix movie that you're like, oh my God, yeah, that one, that one, that one. There's just so many. Even in the second and the third ones, which we're never going to be able to live up to what the first one did. So when you when you stop trying to force it to live up to the first one, you can actually enjoy the second and the third one a lot more. And there are still plenty of scenes in the second film and third film that you think to yourself, "Oh yeah, that's great. I really enjoy that." On rewatches in the future, I'm looking forward to that scene. And now we talk about the fourth one, Resurrection. And I think about, man, how many scenes are in this movie that I'm like, "Oh yeah, I can't wait for that to happen." Not many. There's really not. So to me, I'm going to give it a low watch rating because I'm not saying I'll never watch this movie again. I just don't know. I don't know why I turned this on and rewatch this instead of something I haven't seen yet, or why would watch the fourth one instead of the first one for the 700th time. I'm just not sure why I would make that decision. So I'm going to say this is a low watch rating for me.
Yeah, so I 100% agree. This is a low for me. When I first watched it, my son actually asked me, he said, "So how is it?" And I just instantly said, "It sucks. It sucks." Now, I think that's a little harsh because I think there's some really good stuff here. And some of the things that I've heard, Rob, like you said, this is kind of all over the board for reviews. Either you've got people praising this as like literally the best Matrix movie, like it's amazing, it's so good. And you have people saying, "What the heck is this? Like, why is this even made?" And the one thing that I don't like, and Rob, we've talked about this on this show, is a lot of the stuff that I'm seeing from people that say like, "Oh, I love this movie, it's the greatest thing," and like if you don't like it, is the fact that they're saying you don't understand this movie, you don't get the message behind it, why it's so clever. I'm not really a fan of that. If you like a movie, great. I'm not really here to sit here and change your mind. If you enjoy it, that's fantastic. So that's where I get a little bit of the, yeah, okay. Like you like it, that's good for you, but don't tell people they don't understand it and that's why they don't like it. Because I think there's actually a very, very tight script here. The problem is, without getting into spoilers, I just don't care. Like
Yep.
Everything that happens in this movie, I just don't care. Or it's a reminder that I've seen this before and it happened much better.
So again, without giving spoilers, one of the things that consistently happens is there are callbacks, there are direct scenes of the film, the theatrical releases of the first three films, particularly the first one, that are spliced into this movie or like projected over top of the characters while they're talking to one another or doing something else. And honestly, it just kind of, to me, it just served to remind me that the first three were just so much better, particularly the first one. It's, like instead of making me watch this fourth movie, it just reminds me I'd rather watch the first one a million times and the second and third one, at least, 500 times more than this fourth one, and how much more successful they were at what they were attempting to do. It's a weird kind of gatekeeping that happens online where, you can just, if somebody says they don't like something, there's a lot of people that'll just kind of turn their nose up and get really smug and be a little bit more holier than thou. And, I guess you just don't understand it, particularly with the Matrix, which has always been very heavy with the philosophical kind of undertones and the playing with the concepts of free will versus destiny versus, all of these other things. And it almost gets into sort of, a little bit of religious themes at times with the idea of predestination and free will and all of this other stuff. And it's very interesting. That's one of the things that made the first one so groundbreaking, a little bit to a lesser extent, the second and third. I think particularly the second one, they try to go too far in on that. And that's really where the movie kind of falls apart a bit. But to try to say that, "Oh, you must not understand it if you say you don't like it," is just douchey gatekeeping that it makes people not want to engage in the conversation around film that, Matt, you and I love to do. We love to have conversations about film. That's why I love doing the show with you. It's fun to have the conversation about these things and just reduce it down to just, oh, you don't understand it then. You're a Cro-Magnon. I don't know. It prohibits people from wanting to get involved in enjoying the discussion around film, and I kind of hate it. So stop it if you're out there doing that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. So I think realistically here, this is where, if for any reason you haven't watched The Matrix Resurrections yet, and you don't want to go any further in this episode, this is where you would pause it. If you have an HBO Max subscription, you can get on there. You can watch The Matrix Resurrections. You don't need to go to the theaters. This was the last movie of 2021 that was part of this deal with HBO Max to release all new releases day in of the theater, with the theater release. So last chance, spoiler free. If you don't want them, come back to the episode. If you're ready for spoilers, Rob and I are going to get into popcorn time. Popcorn time, we're going to break down the summary of the movie, main characters, themes, relatable messages. Do we have a favorite part of the movie, least favorite, characters, etc. So full spoilers ahead. And Rob, I'm just going to read the actual overview of the movie here because, again, I was really intrigued when this movie was first announced. Like, okay, what is the actual concept? Why is the Matrix, especially given the end of the third one, why is Neo here? What is going on? And it says, to find out if his reality is a physical or mental construct, Mr. Anderson, aka Neo, will have to choose to follow the rabbit once more. If he's learned anything, it's that choice, while an illusion, is still the only way out of or into the Matrix. Neo already knows what he has to do, but what he doesn't know yet is that the Matrix is stronger, more secure, and far more dangerous than ever before. The overview is literally stating what my problem is with this movie. Like I said, he's got to follow the white rabbit once more. And I'll start there. Again, that's my first problem, is that this movie, they have picked locations, they have picked scenes, they have picked dialogue that is directly from the other movies. They even, like you said, show the other movies in this one. And every time that happens, it is a reminder that this has happened before. And that's never more apparent for me than the action scenes in this movie, because if I have to put something at the top of my list that doesn't work with this movie, right off the bat, it's the action. And I'm not
100%.
I'm not even going to get into the ending yet. That whole last third act, because I think that is atrociously bad. But the action scenes in this, especially because they are, again, almost most of them a carbon copy of what has happened come before it, they're very, very badly choreographed. They seem incredibly slow. I know Keanu Reeves is older. Carrie-Anne Moss is older. But they certainly didn't do them any favors in this movie. And I'll let you, piggyback off that before we get into a little bit more of, why he's actually back in the Matrix. But part of my huge problem with this movie is the fact that, again, everything's a reminder that this happened before. And man, it's just evident during these action scenes that it was much better back in the early 2000s.
It happened before, and it happened better before. Thinking about, there's a lot of things that you and I both love about the first movie, starting just with that one, and then it continues on to a lesser extent with 2 and 3. One of the things that when anybody talks about the original Matrix from, I think it was 1999, one of the things that people will immediately talk about is the action sequences, the fights, the creativeness, the way that they use the world that they built to dictate the rules for how the fights can work. And real fights don't work anything like that. Thinking back to the first movie, I mentioned earlier about how you can pick out 4 or 5 scenes easily that you're like, oh my God, yeah. Think about when they walk into that, they're getting towards the end of the movie and they walk through the metal detector and they've got like 11D guns on them. And just that whole scene of destruction. We've never seen that before. Just the chaos and the brutality and the destructiveness and the way that the entire environment around them is affected by this fight, this conflict. It's so good. Okay, so now fast forward to this movie. There's not one single action scene that we haven't seen before. There's nothing that's being done in any of the fights, any of the major action scenes that's creative, inventive, gives us something new, gives us things we haven't seen before. And I'm not even talking about just haven't seen in film in a while. I'm just saying, like, there's nothing new here. There's not one action scene to me that really stands out. There's parts that are good, but they're short. And it's maybe half of the fight is actually pretty good at times. But again, it's not showing us anything we haven't seen before and haven't seen better. And for a Matrix movie, that's really one of the first things that just completely lets me, as a huge fan of the original 3, just really lets me down.
Yeah, that is, man, I couldn't have said it any better. And again, I said this in the watch rating segment. I actually think there is a very, very tight script here. I really do like why the Matrix is still around, why it's still plugged in, why Neo, why Trinity are still here. To talk about that, we find out that Neo is back, but he doesn't look like Neo to most of the world. The Matrix has found a way to, Rob, I should remember this since I just watched it, but like they say, change his like algorithm so he looks older. It's still him, but to everybody else, he looks like an old man. He does not look like the Neo, even though, we, the viewer, see him and he himself sees himself. What the rest of the people see is an older gentleman. I think that's really clever. I think the fact that, it's kind of tongue in cheek and, to use the word meta, that he created the Matrix video games and, that's what they're doing. I think it's a really clever choice to say that the reason they have him and Trinity both back, why they reconstructed them, is because the machines found if they could keep them just close enough without getting them, too close together, they emit huge charges of energy, which the machines need. I think the script is really, really clever. But every time the dialogue stops, it like this movie to me loses so much momentum. And one of my other problems, and before I let you get into that, is two major recastings. Yep. They recast Morpheus and they recast Agent Smith. And my problem with recasting Morpheus is you have a statue of him in Zion that is Lawrence Fishburne's bust. So you still pay tribute to him, so to speak. And I don't know the whole behind the scenes things of why he didn't come back. So I can't speak to that and, here or there. And then you recast Smith, who I did read that they wrote this part for Hugo Weaving, but it just didn't come to fruition. But if you were so insistent, like they are so insistent with telling you that these characters are still the same, but there is nothing there. Like, I know, Neo is supposed to feel this connection to Morpheus. Like, it's good to see you again. But me, as the audience member, I don't care. I don't feel anything for him seeing this new Morpheus. I don't feel anything when I see the subway fight again. And this guy who, again, I don't even think he's that good. I don't like him at all. sorry. Like, I try not to, again, I'm not going to say anything about the actor. I just, compared to what we got from Hugo Weaving, it falls so short. None of that is an emotional connection to me. I just could care less. But imagine if this would have worked, how crazy would it have been? How much emotion would you have felt if Hugo Weaving was Smith in this movie and helped Neo towards the end? That would have been cool. That would have been impactful. Instead, I get like I feel with most of this movie, whatever. Like, it's like a sandwich that I bought for $5 and I don't care that it's bad, so I just throw it out. Like, I don't care about the $5. It's nothing to me. I don't want this anymore. That's what this movie feels like to me.
It's hard to state it any better than that. I think sometimes when a movie or a TV show is doing something and it's supposed to elicit a reaction, and your reaction isn't positive or negative, but your reaction is kind of and I'm vaguely kind of shrugging and putting my hands up in the air as I say that. That's really an indictment on what you're trying to do, because you can do something and people can like it or not like it, but they at least have a reaction. And so many things, particularly in the third act of this movie, I just don't care. Like, I just have no reaction to it. Like, I definitely agree that if you're going to bring characters back, but not bring the actors back, that's really tough to pull off well. And I don't think it was pulled off well. Yahya Abdul-Mateen, I actually liked him. I liked his performance. Nothing against him. He's not Fishburne. And I would 100% agree with you. I would have had a much more solid reaction to those moments, to those scenes, if it would have been him. I would have had that connection to the previous three movies, had that connection to that relationship, had it been him. And I can think of many times that we've talked about movies or TV shows where you see characters reunited after a long time apart, or, maybe they hadn't been, there's a couple films or a couple, weeks of time that they had been apart from each other, and they get reunited again. And because they have that connection, you feel something because you remember those scenes, you remember the visualization of it. And because they, for whatever reason, I had heard that they never actually offered Fishburne the opportunity to come back is what I had heard. I don't know that that's true or not, but that's initially what I had heard, that Hugo Weaving was not available for scheduling conflicts. If you're going to make a fourth Matrix movie, I think you wait till you get them both. I think you figure out a way to make it work. You shoot around it. You need those guys. If you're bringing their characters back, I mean, for God's sakes, they brought back the Merovingian. Like, if I said to you, hey, Matt, who's the worst character, the character you despise the most out of the original Matrix trilogy? Is it the Merovingian? Because I'm pretty sure that's my least favorite character out of all of it. And they brought him back. And they couldn't get Hugo Weaving? They couldn't get Lawrence Fishburne? Are you kidding me?
And again, like, here's the thing that I will say about that. I actually think that it was like that scene with him, not the whole thing. I thought he was pretty funny. And again, I think there was a great idea there with why those programs were the way that they were. I really do think that this is actually a very, like, that's the thing. I think this movie is very clever. I think this movie actually, the script, I've said it before, I've said it twice now. The script is super tight in the sense of why the Matrix exists, why there would be a fourth movie. It's just the execution is what falls off. You've got an incredible engine in a car, but as soon as you start driving it, like everything like in an action movie, the car just starts falling apart from bullet holes. The doors peel off, the windshield flies off, the sun, the convertible top all of a sudden blows off because of strong wind, like, and everything just falls apart. And it's like, Oh yeah, well look, geez, that engine though, that's pretty. That's pretty. Um,
I actually think I maybe have a little more of a problem. There's certain parts of what you said that I will definitely agree with in terms of why the new version of the Matrix works and looks the way that it does. Yeah, okay, I'll come along with that. Sure, fine. I'll pretty much give the movie a pass because I just want more Matrix content. Like I want more, just anything in this world. I sort of dig the new upgrades where your operator is kind of like in scene with you instead of like just on the phone. Like I kind of dig that. I like that they changed that around. I really like the little nanites that allow a physical representation of a program in the real world. I kind of like that. That's a cool addition. Like it fits. It's in universe. It's like, yeah, that's Matrix. That's sci-fi kind of, stuff that we really love about the original. But in terms of their justification for resurrecting Trinity and Neo, I'm a little less certain on that. Because she definitely got stabbed all to hell. And he got blown up or destroyed or whatever. It happened at the end of the third one. They're dead. They're dead dead. And somehow they just kind of reconstructed the muscle from what? Like, where did they pull all this tissue from? And how did they restart their life? Like, I'm not trying to get into like a whole like what is a soul kind of conversation. Like that's actually probably fits with this movie. But how did they? Whatever you believe, how did they infuse life back into a lifeless body? Like that to me, I was a little less sure of, and I think if you're going to resurrect the characters, I think there was other ways maybe they could have done it that would have been in world a little more. I don't know, would have worked a little bit better for me. I want to talk a little bit about some of the meta stuff because it's pretty. There's a lot of it right towards the beginning of the movie, and I think it's a little fourth wall breaking, and it kind of pulled me out a bit. But I almost think that's kind of the point. So it actually works, even though I didn't particularly like it, if that makes sense.
yeah, I think it's like the way I interpreted it, like with the fourth wall breaking, because I think that's very accurate. I really feel like at the same, like, while this movie is taking place, more so, it's almost like it's supposed to get you to think like in real life, like, is the Matrix real? I feel like it just makes you like everything about it makes you question what's going on here. Like,
Yeah.
are you being lied to? With everything going on in the world, like, is it being manipulated? Are you being lied to? What is actually real? What do you have control over? Or is it the illusion of control?
Are we actually in a simulation?
Right. I think I think there's a lot of that in this movie. And again, I like the fact that they're talking about that. Oh, he's a video game producer and he's made these crazy Matrix games. And like, oh, after all this time, like going back to the Matrix, that's
Yeah.
just so tongue in cheek. Like he might as well, Agent Smith might as well have just looked directly in the camera and just either flipped us off or winked at us. Like, like one or the other. Like that's probably, what could have happened.
Speaking of which, I do love, and I didn't catch it the first time, but the second time I watched it, right at the beginning in his office, there is a bust of a hand giving the middle finger. And I caught it the second time, and I love that they did that.
Yeah. So even even the beginning too, when which okay, I don't understand. Here's where I don't understand either. They're replaying the beginning of the first Matrix where Trinity is in that fight scene. And maybe I'm a little confused because, I watched it again and I still don't get it. If everything is supposed to be the same, because they're like, that's Trinity, but that's not how this happened. They don't talk about the person not looking like Trinity. They talk about the outcome not being what they know happened. Why would they be repeating a program? Why didn't they just de-age Carrie-Anne Moss? Like, why is there a different act? I guess I got confused, and maybe I'm overthinking it, but why was it a different actress in that scene?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think at the beginning, and this was, both times I've seen this, I'm just so excited that the movie starts and we get the Matrix music. We get that
Yeah.
Matrix sound. You get the wah, wah, you get the horns just really blasting with that iconic sound that is the Matrix. You get the green lines of code. You get that great opening where people in sunglasses wearing leather are fighting people in suits in a dilapidated room, and they're crashing through walls, and they're using Wing Chun, and it's there's on wires, and they're running up walls like you just like that's what you want out of the Matrix. And then we get that here at the beginning, and then we never get that again. like that's not what I want out of the Matrix.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. When the movie first starts and you get the the intro, I seriously I sat up on my couch. I was like, okay, oh boy, here we go. Like, yes,
Yeah.
the Matrix.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, all right, here's the Matrix. But also too, I one thing that I had a problem with, and it's in the beginning and it's throughout the movie too. And I don't remember it really so much in the first three movies because there's a lot of regular, well, I say regular, like police force and things like that that are part of the action in certain scenes. But why in this movie for the agents, why do they have stormtrooper aim?
Yeah, they definitely got worse.
Because that scene where she's running away in the beginning and then she's like jumping over the cop car, they're like 15 feet away from this person, and they're firing bullets everywhere except for at this person that's in front of them.
Yeah.
I don't understand it because there's no on-screen indication that she's moving faster than the bullets. They are flat out missing her. And I could see maybe if it was one-on-one, her being able to do that. But there's what, 3, 4, 5, I don't even know. And they're just all missing her. These bullets are going everywhere except for where you would think one stray one would hit her.
Think about the first movie when they introduced the concept of the agent. They were terrifying. They were intimidating. And when they were on screen, you were fearful for the characters that were on screen because you knew they had no chance. And then when Neo kind of, uses the Konami code and upgrades his avatar a bit and all of a sudden has the ability to not just take on the agents, but defeat the agents, that meant something. That was like, oh, wow. Oh, he is the one when that happened. And in this movie, the agents just aren't. There's really at no point where I feel like they're this unstoppable juggernaut that really spells doom for anybody on screen, and they just need to get out of there. They not only do they have stormtrooper aim, but they completely forgot all of their kung fu. They're not scary at all in hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah, no, they don't feel like they are a threat at all in this movie. They just are placeholders, and that's really unfortunate. Because it just also the one thing that I will say about one thing that I'll say about this movie, there just also doesn't seem to be any stakes involved in this movie. And I have heard that she's definitely, Lana Wachowski is definitely not doing another one. I mean, I also heard that part of this movie, she did this because she was told that they were going to do a fourth Matrix they were at the point where they were going to do a fourth Matrix movie with or without her. And that caused her to do it. And that's why there's some of the, the tongue in cheek of, oh, look, the studio is forcing us to do a fourth Matrix game. We have to do it. Plain and simple. I've heard recently that that's part of the reason why she agreed to do this movie, but she definitely would not do a fifth one. But I don't even want, like, I don't know. This doesn't seem, the way this movie ends makes it seem like they could do more. But after this one, I don't want them to. Like, I have no interest to see, and like, I have no interest to see anything branch off of this, because, it's like a soft reboot / sequel. But at least with the ending of the first one, it was, okay, well, where does this go? How are they going to free? He says, I'm going to show them, what you don't want them to see, a world without rules. I don't care what comes after this if there's an idea, and maybe that would change if it did come out. But this movie ends and I'm just like, yeah, please don't make another one. I could just care less what happens in the Matrix. At least after the third one, I was like, yeah, I wonder where they could go. I would like to see maybe something happening. It ends with, I made the sky for Neo, and do you think we'll ever see him again? I just have no desire to see what else the Matrix has to offer after this movie.
Think back to the early aughts, right? The third Matrix movie comes out, and you have all these questions about what could happen. If I offered you, hey, Matt, would you like a spin-off graphic novel limited run series? It's going to be 11 issues long. It's going to explore additional stories, maybe some of the characters you've seen before, mostly new ones though. Would you have added that to your pull list? Of course you would have. If I told you, and they did two, they did Enter the Matrix, and then they also did the Matrix Online, which to some, for better, for worse, I guess is the best way to put that. If I had told you they were going to do an open world Matrix game in the style of Assassin's Creed, could I interest you in that? Well, of course. Yeah, you would absolutely have jumped on that. Thinking now, like if streaming was as prevalent and the desire to get unique exclusive streaming content, prestige TV is at a place now that it's never been before. Everybody is trying to get the show. Thinking back, if HBO Max was a thing in the mid 2000s, if I had told you we were going to get a Matrix series that's going to spin off with some characters that we've seen before, you would 100% watch that. You and I would be doing breakdown shows for that. Like, there's so much interest in this world. The craft built into this world is so extensive and so curious of what else is going on. It's very much like the Lord of the Rings. It's very much like, Game of Thrones. It's all of these other things that you can think of, like just fully formed worlds that you want to know more about. You want to see other stories from it. You want to see how other people are interacting in it. Yes, these characters that we saw are the most important characters in that world because they have the biggest impact on the events that will affect the entire world. But there's still other stories to tell, and there's still compelling stories to tell that we as an audience would love to participate in, be it interactive with a game, or if it's a graphic novel, if it's a TV show, or even a spin-off series of movies focusing on other characters, or whatever comes next. I would have absolutely signed up for that in the early, to mid 2000s. And now it's kind of like, I guess. If it's good, sure. But if I heard tomorrow that Matrix 5 is been greenlit and they're going to start production and they're bringing everybody back from 4, okay. I'll wait till it comes on streaming. Like, I'm not buying a movie ticket for it unless I hear it's mind blowing. I just, getting back to what we said before about this, a lot of stuff happens in it and I just kind of don't care. There's just so many things that, even just something as simple as when Trinity and Neo re-meet for the first time, the scene's kind of awful and it's more than just a little cringy. And then later on, she agrees to a coffee date with him when in her reality she's married and she seems like she's happily married. Like I don't understand why any of this is happening, but I also don't really care. And really when I think about the kinds of things that I just don't really work for me about this movie, yes, from a screenwriting standpoint, there's built-in reasons why all this is happening, but I already know what the Matrix is. I'm bored as hell watching Trinity and Neo refigure it all back out. I've already seen Neo have to figure out the difference between the real world and the simulated one. I've kind of seen that and I liked it better the first time. Rewatching him and then seeing her have to participate as well, it's just kind of boring and it's just not at all what I want. I want them fighting agents. I want machine guns going off. I want walls being destroyed. I want stakes that matter. And I want, something I haven't already seen and already seen better.
Yeah. And, there's certain parts too when he's questioning, when Neo is questioning whether or not this is real or he's losing his mind. And I get it. I love the guy. I think all of the world loves Keanu Reeves. If you ever hear anything about this guy, he's like the biggest down to earth guy who's had some, incredible tragedies in his life, like still takes the subway for God's sakes. And he's just a really, really nice guy from all accounts that you hear. But I don't think anybody's ever claimed that he is like this amazing actor. He's just a guy that you root for. But some of the spots in this movie where he's questioning his sanity and like he like is going insane, like especially the office shootout, it's just really bad. Like it's really, really bad. It's cringeworthy. It takes me out of the movie and I'm just like, again, I just don't care. Like there were times during my first and second watch through that I literally like I just got up and I went to the kitchen and I grabbed something to drink and like I can see from my kitchen, I can see the TV, so I wasn't missing anything, but this movie just never kept me focused at any given time except for really like again like the opening. The opening hits, you get the sound, you get the screen, and I was like, okay. But it quickly dwindles. And again, the worst thing that a movie can do, and we've said this before, is I can love it, I can hate it, I can be somewhere in the middle. But at the end of the day, I don't love this movie. I don't even hate this movie. I just really don't care. I just don't. I don't care enough to sit there and say this is terrible. I don't care enough to say this is good, and I don't care enough to say, well, it's lukewarm. I can never think of a reason again why I would turn this movie on ever.
Yeah. You start the movie, you watch it, you turn it off, and you just go about your day, and you ultimately are unfazed by the events of what you just saw. You were talking about when they have that first shootout. There's a couple things that happen there that, maybe you didn't even really think about this because ultimately it's just like, it doesn't even really matter. But if ultimately the machines need Neo and they need him to produce all this power for them, why are they shooting at him? Because if he dies in the Matrix, he dies in the real world. So why exactly is the SWAT team shooting at him? Like, that doesn't really make sense to me. And then Smith pulls out the Desert Eagle and, we get that shot of him kind of peeking around the desk and he shoots the corner of the desk off. Like, that's a big gun. Like,
right.
If he was hiding behind the desk, that would have burst his grape. Like, it doesn't just like, that round does not just disappear into the desk and then just like vaporizes. Like, his head would have vaporized. Like, little things like that. I just go, wait, hold on. I don't understand this. And then I realize, you know what? Actually, I don't care.
Yeah, absolutely. And then even the ending of this movie, I want to talk about this last act because Okay, the first movie, Neo gets shot by Smith. Oh my God, can't believe it. He's not the one. How can this be? Trinity, I love you. The Oracle said, the one that I'm in love with would be the one. He gets up. He says no. He stops the bullets. He looks at one. They drop, and he can now see the code. The Matrix Reloaded, the Merovingian scene. They start shooting at him. Stops the bullets. They drop. Those two scenes were cool. First Matrix movie because you didn't see it before. Oh my God, he is the one. He has these powers. He can do this. Second movie was like, okay, showing like his upgraded ability to stop all of those bullets because there's like 6 people shooting at him. Why is the entire third act him just like using telekinesis? Like literally the last act of this movie is him and Trinity riding around on a motorcycle and him just stopping everything with his mind. There's no excitement to it. There's no originality. There's just nothing. Like I was literally bored out of my mind watching them get to that roof. Like I could not stand it.
Absolutely nothing to disagree with there. I mean, when you think about what really starts the climax of this movie, it's a conversation in a coffee shop. That's how they begin the climax of their movie. If I asked you to make a list for me, make a list of all of the things that in a fourth Matrix movie you'd really want. How far down that list would you have to get before you told me that you really wanted Neo and Trinity to have a conversation in a coffee shop? Like it's like, is it even on the list? Like it's you? No, we don't like that's. No. That, again, over and over, one of the things I'm thinking about is so many things I don't like about this movie are just, this isn't really at all what I wanted. And then we get to exactly the point you're talking about where Neo just force pushes all of the danger away. There's no stakes. It completely nerfs all of the danger. And we stop being emotionally invested. I stop caring. And it really feels like as the movie continues to kind of wind through the climax, that they just keep changing the rules for the Matrix. And instead of like stopping to ask questions about it or like being annoyed, like, wait a second, why are they changing the rules now? I just go, all right, fine. This is almost done. Like, I'm good with that. Just let's move it along here. And they get to the top of the tower. They have their first kiss as Trinity and Neo getting back together. And I don't care. Like I just I don't feel anything. I'm sort of just meh at that point.
Yeah, I mean, look, if I wanted to watch people sit in a coffee shop and talk, I'd rewatch Friends. I don't need that from the Matrix. I also don't understand how, again, they're riding around on the bike. He stops everything with his mind. There's thousands of bullets flying around. There's missiles. Everything.
There's zombies now too.
Right.
Sure, why not?
The horde or whatever they call them. Like, yeah, okay, fine.
The swarm.
Yes, the swarm. Okay, so Neo can do all of that. He can literally just right in front of his face, like just boom, nope. Like I can stop everything. We're good. But I'm sorry. What's the meaning behind the fact that they jump off the building and he can't fly anymore? So why is he nerfed in that regard? I don't know,
because the plot dictated it.
I don't know what the message is supposed to be there. Is it supposed to be that Trinity is his other half? I don't understand how he can do everything that just happened, but he can't fly anymore. I just am. I am mega confused.
After my initial watch of it, I was starting to kind of try to think about that. So I was like, okay, well, does that mean that Trinity was actually the one all along? Like, is that what this is supposed to mean? And then you see the two of them flying together at the end. So, okay, well, that's not it. It's like, okay, well, are they like a dyad in the Force? Like, is that what this is now? And then I realized I actually just didn't care. And I just went to bed and stopped thinking about it.
Yeah. And again, like uh, some of maybe what is supposed to be, I don't know, the deeper meaning, and maybe I'll find an article that I think is really good about maybe why that had happened. But on two watch throughs, I had just it doesn't mean anything to me. It doesn't make sense. One person that we didn't talk about, this is backtracking here. I don't particularly number one, I don't particularly like Niobe. I think she changes characteristics on a whim when the plot dictates it.
Yep.
I like the concept of Zion though, and them actually working with, them working with machines, especially her change to it. I will say that certain things, I wasn't like overly like moved by it. I will say though, I did like the initial interaction between Neo and Niobe with, I still don't believe in the one. And at one point though, you trusted me with a ship. I did actually like that dialogue. I thought that was actually pretty darn good. But yeah, she's too wishy-washy for me. And the whole, what was her name? Saeed in the third movie? The little girl that was with the Oracle, was that her name?
Ooh.
Because I can't remember it.
I don't remember either, yeah.
Just their whole plan to go in and get Trinity, and then what again, I don't know, maybe I just, because the movie didn't keep my interest, is the girl that Neo first meets that shows him the white rabbit tattoo, is that supposed to be like, why was she the one that was able to get Trinity out? Because it seemed like she was like a conduit, like almost she was Trinity's original programming, or I was really confused as to why that person seemed so special. Like she had to go and get Trinity. And maybe I'm just so disconnected from the movie, I actually missed a bit of dialogue. But
yeah,
I was
confused.
Seems,
it's like I said earlier, the movie just kind of makes up the rules as it goes along. And I just really don't care enough to try to figure it out, because it really seems like they just sort of upload Trinity to like Dropbox or whatever. And then just like move her body, they plug and unplug her. And then, it's just like, oh, it's just like a thumb drive. You just kind of like put her consciousness back in the back of her brain. And somehow Bugs is involved in it. And I just go, okay, whatever. Like I just like, that's vaguely what's going on. I'm sure that maybe the screenwriter could explain a little bit better to me, but I just don't care. Like, and like you said, yeah, maybe there'll be like an article that'll come out somewhere, but I actually I said this on the EPU show that my brother Eric and I just released, and I've definitely said it before on the big show, but if you have to explain what's going on with either an article that gets published, or a comic book tie-in or something, like if you have to add other media to explain what's going on in the piece of entertainment I'm trying to watch, like if I have to go consume something else for this to make sense, then you have failed. Like it should have a clear and obvious explanation, or I should be able to understand what's going on or draw my own conclusions. If you then want to flesh it out further with tie-ins, fine, by all means, go ahead, have fun. Those are fun. I enjoy them. But if I need the tie-in to make it make sense, then you have failed as a storyteller.
Yeah, 100% agree. That's kind of the Rise of Skywalker. There's 100 tie-ins to figure out why Palpatine came back. That felt like,
and at the beginning, it's just Palpatine's back for some reason. Like that's literally the line.
Right.
Okay. And I actually felt that a lot watching this. Like Neo and Trinity are back for some reason.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, literally the line is somehow Palpatine returned, and everybody's like, oh, all right. Like,
okay.
It's explained away with dark arts, stuff only the Sith
and cloning.
Knew. Right. Cloning, dark arts, stuff only the Sith knew. Oh, yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, that's... this movie is, a lot of this movie is, Rob, have you ever seen the movie Grumpier Old Men?
Yes, I have.
So I love those two movies. I think they're very funny.
I do as well.
But when he is so one scene he's going geez, all right, I'm just going to say this. At one point in the movie, one of the characters goes to try and like get this girl back that has left him. And he's like, if you'd like to join me for some mystery stew, that's this movie. Like, like this movie is mystery stew. It's, well, I'm not like you just said, I'm not sure what's in here. And if I need to go and like read the package to understand what this is, I don't think I should have it. And yeah, like I said, I can never envision a point where I would want to rewatch this movie. I really certainly wouldn't be interested if a friend said, "Hey, do you want to watch The Matrix Resurrections?" Nope. I certainly wouldn't see myself if this was on TV stopping and sitting down and watching this, because there's nothing, there's nothing in like the first one that would hook me in. Like not the first scene, but the subway scene between Smith and Neo. There's not the car chase scene from the second one. There's not even the Merovingian fight from the second one that I would be like, oh, this part's on TV. Let me stop and just watch this for a second. There's not the third one where the Zion battle is going on, or the final fight between Smith and Neo. I would stop if that was on the TV and be like, oh, let me catch this part. There's nothing that happens in this movie that would cause me to stop what I'm doing and go, let me watch the television for 5 minutes.
Not a single thing. If you're going to sit down, if you're going to open HBO Max and you start typing in MATR and it starts giving you predictions, what makes you select this over the original? Like, what would be the reason to do that?
Yeah.
I can't think of one. Because there's nothing that this does better.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't pick this over any of the Matrix movies.
Even something as simple as the costuming. Think about the original Matrix, and they carry this on in the second and the third. How iconic are each of the wardrobe choices they make for the characters once they're in the simulation? Like when they're in the real world, yeah, they're all in like threadbare rags and stuff like that, and it fits, it works, it's the right choices for it. But just think about how cool and just badass all of those costumes were, and all the wardrobe choices. And we get like 3 really good costumes in this movie. I think Morpheus has like 2, and Bug's costume's actually not bad. But outside of that, like Neo's just in a black blazer and I think maybe jeans and a gray t-shirt. Like we don't even get that. Like we don't even get cool sunglasses for the most part throughout most of this. Like we don't like the core things about the Matrix just don't exist in this movie.
Yeah, no, I mean, we don't get the classic. Like, again, I get it. I know his look is different. Like, Keanu Reeves has got his John Wick look in this movie, but we don't get like a classic Neo look.
Nope. Until
the end. Like a really true classic Neo look. Not even the black pants. Like you don't get that look at all. And again, by the time it comes, it's like, okay, I hate to say this. I don't care where this goes. I just don't. I have no desire to see what would happen with another movie.
If it was good, then okay, great. Like I enjoy The Matrix as a concept enough that, let's say, the powers that be and all the people involved in making The Matrix said, actually, we do want to do more of these. We're going to do a 5th and 6th movie, and we're going to shoot it back to back and release it kind of quickly, like we did with Revolutions and Reloaded.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was really motivated to actually do it, and it was actually really good. Then okay, I would like, if it's good, I'm in. But do I have high hopes? I really don't. I just don't.
Yeah, no. I have no hope for it at all. So with everything that we've talked about, Rob, I don't know what could you possibly think of as your favorite part of the movie? Like, is there anything that you actually really do? Like, could you see yourself doing a YouTube clip for any scene in this movie?
If I was going to, um, the scene where they are in kind of the metal shop with the where she's working on the bike. I think some of the VFX in that scene where it's slow motion, but it's not the same slow motion we've seen before. It's like kind of a little bit glitchy, but it's intentional. There's some parts of that that are actually pretty good. We've spent a lot of time saying that this movie doesn't really show us anything we haven't seen before. This is close. We haven't really seen this kind of presentation of a character, moving faster than everybody else. We typically get like a standard sort of just slow-mo kind of thing. Neil Patrick Harris, I don't even think we've said his name once, but I actually think his performance is really good. When he's trying to convince Neo that he is Thomas Anderson, he's actually pretty good in that. And then when he flips, and you can see it coming a mile away, like, pretty early on, you're fairly certain like he's actually a program. He's maybe the new architect. Like, that doesn't take a genius. It's not really like a major twist when it actually happens.
Right.
But a lot of the scenes he's in are actually pretty good. The scenes where he's, before Neo really figures it out, I actually think they're well done, even though I just want them to be over and get us to more like Matrixy kind of stuff that we ultimately really don't get. So I would actually say, as far as a favorite scene, I think for me, it's going to be kind of that slow-mo bike shop scene. I would call my favorite.
Okay. I do like that scene because, again, it really is one of, to me, like the few things that is different. And actually interesting. Like, I don't think the swarm herd is interesting at all. I don't think that's clever. So yeah, I would agree with that. I will say too, a quick little sidebar here. I do think Neil Patrick Harris's character he's pretty good in the role. I do like how he does make a mention. They don't call him by name, but he does make a mention of the architect, and the guy before me thought this was the way, and I convinced everybody that, we need to do this. I do like that he actually talked about him, and he just never agreed with the way he ran things. So I do like him, but again, it's so few. This movie is so truly few and far in between from anything that poses an interesting concept to, they'll hit you with something that's interesting, and then they hit you with a recap of one of the other movies. Like, oh, okay. And then they show you Neo talking to Morpheus from the first movie. And then they go into the fight scene in the new movie, and it's like, wow, this is slow and really badly choreographed. So
then all of a sudden he just uses a sonic boom out of nowhere because reasons. Right.
Yeah. Like, I was just reminded 10 seconds ago about the fight scene from the first one, and then you show me this one, and it's just, yeah, it's like it actively works against itself a lot in this movie. So I would have to agree, Rob, because I just don't know. Again, I don't know of any scene in this movie that would make me, if it was on, stop and say, ooh, like, I remember this. Like, this was actually really cool. There's no fight scene in this movie that would make me go, yes, let me watch this.
The opening, like we said, was interesting, and it sets the hook because it feels like it's going to be what we remember from the first three, but then it never reappears again. When he's fighting Morpheus inside that sort of like recreation of the dojo, but it's like more in the middle of a lake, most of it sucks. It gets kind of interesting for about 15 seconds. And then when he just starts throwing the sonic boom, that's when it just stops being good at that point. Like he's not going to fight, and then he remembers kung fu, and then he fights a little bit, and it's actually good for a little bit, and then there's the sonic boom, and it just completely shuts down from there. The train scene, there's nothing that happens in any of the action sequences, either with the gunplay or the hand-to-hand combat, that, again, like we've said, None of it is anything we haven't seen before. None of it is compelling. None of it is new, and the stakes don't matter. So the scene sucks.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm going to go with what is, because it's really hard for me to pick like a least favorite scene. So I'm going to switch to who my least favorite character is, because I don't really have a favorite character in this movie. My least favorite character really is the new Agent Smith, just because the contrast, because we're supposed to think that this is the same Smith that has all of the memories come back about what him and Neo went through. Again, sorry, no offense to the actor who plays this character now, but he has absolutely nothing on Hugo Weaving. I think, I'm sure he tried very hard and, brought whatever he could to the role. But the fact that you are forcing me to remember that this is the same character and he's just not he's not intimidating. Even his look is, like the way this guy looks is not intimidating. Yeah. It's really like my least favorite character because of, again, I know what we got before, and my God, is it better?
Yeah, go ahead and try to take over for Hugo Weaving, playing the same character. And I'd read some things that Jonathan Groff is the actor's name who plays Smith. He specifically wanted to try to do something different. He didn't want it just to be, like a caricature or an impersonation of Weaving's take on the character, because that would have just been terrible. Like that would have been absolutely the worst. But it's not, as a filmmaker, it's not fair to do that to that actor, because everybody's going to compare him to Hugo Weaving, and that speech pattern, just think about when he's like, it's the smell of it, and he just gets so intense, and he's right in Morpheus' face. And as soon as I say that line, you can think, exactly what I'm talking about. And when he goes through that whole bit of, if you are unable to speak, like immediately you think of that cadence in his delivery, exactly the scene I'm talking about, because Hugo Weaving is so iconic in his, presentation of Agent Smith. And that's what made, Smith so terrifying as a villain and formidable as the antagonist, was what Hugo Weaving brought to it. And this version of Smith is just kind of a dude bro software executive that, doesn't even bother to wear a tie. Like it just,
right.
It looks like every other Silicon Valley executive that every day is casual Friday and wears a hoodie underneath his suit coat. Like, it's not fair to the actor to put, they shouldn't have even made him Smith. Like they should have made him somebody different, a different agent. I don't know. But as far as, least favorite character, I'm going to go with you on that. I will say, in terms of the new characters, I actually think Bugs is a pretty interesting character. In terms of the new characters that get introduced, she's probably the only one that I would say really has enough screen time for us to even care. But I actually kind of wanted to see more of her. And if you were going to give me more Matrix content, if I have my choice, I think I'd like to see it centered around her.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's, she certainly is the one who seems to get, means sort of the most in this movie, so to speak. She's on screen and seems to be more present than everybody else and has interactions with more like true meaningful interactions with characters. But again, it's, there's certain times when it's just like she's pushed aside and, oh yeah, okay, she's here. Like, so.
Yeah, and I'm not even saying that in like, oh yeah, she's a great character, so well written, but it's like, if you're going to give me something else, that's probably the character I'd most like to see. I think there's probably the most to work with there. Outside of that, can you even name any of the other characters that are new, that are introduced?
No, not at all. I really can't. I'd have to honestly search them.
Yeah. Yep. So. And what does that say about the movie?
Yeah, exactly. Anything else you want to finish up with on that, with favorite, least favorite, before we move into the final segment?
That last scene really, I think, might be the best of the philosophical conversation when Trinity and Neo are kind of both woken back up and they're really talking to the architect. That to me felt like this is about as close as what we got to the original in terms of that really interesting, compelling conversation around free will and all of the things that we loved about the philosophy with the first one. We got it just a tiny little bit there at the end, and that was really about it. So I don't want to say I think that scene works incredibly well, but it works better than most of what we saw up to that point.
Yeah, I think I can agree with that. So, with all of that being said, let's move on to roll credits. So, roll credits. Is there anything interesting about the film, box office, behind the scenes, and what our overall rating is going to be? Now, I really, again, the most interesting thing that I've heard about this is that, Warner Brothers told Lana Wachowski that, look, we're either going to make this movie with you or we're going to do it without you. So, what do you want to do? I'm sure probably somewhere down the road we will get more information about that. This film, again, it's kind of hard to say what this film really does do. I'll be interested to see what HBO Max thinks about, well, not thinks, but like, what are the HBO Max numbers for this film? How many times was it watched? How many different households? Was this tracking to be somewhat of a success? It might not ever matter because she's come out and stated that she's not doing another one. So maybe another one is because Warner Brothers just finds somebody to do it. But I really don't think there's anything interesting about this. Rob, did you, for any reason, catch anything, like any behind the scenes stuff that you found about this movie?
No, I wouldn't say anything behind the scenes. The one thing that I would point out, maybe not necessarily an Easter egg, but they do use the song "Wake Up" so for the end credits of this, which was what they used for the original film. It's Rage Against the Machine's version of "Wake Up," and it's a phenomenal song. It's one of the best uses of music to end a movie that I've ever thought of, and they do that again here. However, very much like the fact that this is a re-microwaved version of the first one that doesn't taste as good as what we had to begin with. It's actually, and this isn't to say that it's a bad version of the song, but it's a cover by a group called Brass Against that they do kind of like jazzier versions of a lot of Rage songs, but they do I think they do a lot of some other metal songs too. I think they've done like System of a Down and stuff like that, where they'll do kind of a horn version and replace the guitars with brass instruments and things like that. And they've got a chick that kind of raps over top of it, and they're actually pretty good. You should check them out. It's not the original, but it's still a pretty cool version. And I just sort of thought that a cover of the original song was somehow fitting for what this is. It tries to do what the original did, but just doesn't do it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually did kind of like the cover of the song. I actually did think that was pretty good. So, again, it's going to be a little while before we find out true numbers for, maybe what this did on HBO Max. So nothing really there. But the overall rating at Matt Goes to the Movies, we do it on a real system, 1 to 5. I did review this movie on Letterboxd, and after watching it the second time, it's not going to go up. It's not going to go down. It's going to stay at 2 out of 5 reels. Part of me still says that the script is really interesting. The reason why The Matrix still exists is pretty clever. And that really alone is what gives this movie the 2 stars. It's not the stakes. It's not the action. It's not even really the dialogue, so to speak. Because again, like once you find out why The Matrix is around in like this new version of it, I don't think there's a lot of other interesting things that happen or the conversations that go on in this movie. So for me, this is 2 out of 5 reels. And I thought maybe it would go down. but I think that's fair for me for 2 out of 5.
On my initial watch, I was just very disappointed with this movie, and I think a large part of it is this just wasn't the Matrix follow up that I wanted. Um, it's not at all what I pictured. It's not at all what I hoped for, and that really led to me not enjoying the movie much at all on my first watch. So I sit down to rewatch this for the second time, and in my mind, I'm saying, okay, I already know what the movie is. I already know it's not what I wanted out of it. That being said, can I sit, watch, and actually enjoy this for what it is, removing expectations from the movie and just what is it? Do I enjoy it? I probably liked it a little bit more on my rewatch than I did initially, but I'm right there with you, Matt. It's 2 reels out of 5. It's hard for me to, even removing my expectations from this, there's still not enough here that makes me enjoy what we did get. Because there's really not a lot that works here.
Yeah, I totally agree. So, with that being said, that's really going to wrap up our conversation on the Matrix Resurrections. But before we officially sign off, Rob, I want to give you a chance here because you recently just did an extended universe episode, which I mentioned this during my Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer episode. I am actually really insanely jealous of. So, because I love the movie and I absolutely love the dialogue and the conversation between you and your brother. I'm actually going to have to go watch it. I'm convinced I'm going to watch this movie, if not tomorrow, on Tuesday. So I'll let you talk about it because I really, really enjoyed it. So yeah, go ahead. Why don't you tell listeners what we're talking about?
Yeah, thank you. So Matt's nice enough to let me borrow his channel once in a while to do kind of a spin-off show that we call the Extended Podcast Universe, kind of keeping it into kind of the multiversal theme of some of the movies that Matt likes to talk about on the channel here. So my younger brother, Eric, and I have done a couple of episodes. We've done 5 now. We call it the Extended Podcast Universe for Rob's Reviews. And we focus a lot on movies that have meant a lot to us over a long period of time. Some of the most iconic and classic movies that have just really, had a big impact and really are the kinds of films that make me love movies. These are the kinds of films and these are the sorts of films that I'm always hoping to go sit in a theater and see a new one that's going to make it to that list. So we just completed an episode on the Boondock Saints, which was a lot of fun to do. And so I definitely, recommend checking that out. We've also recently done Gone in 60 Seconds. We've covered Fight Club was the first one we did. We've done Goodfellas. We've done The Big Lebowski, all films that have meant a lot to us over time. And Eric curates a playlist based on songs that are from the film or inspired by the film or just kind of put you in the mood to watch the film. So I definitely recommend when you're not listening to new episodes of Matt Goes to the Movies or our friend Harrison's show over on the Basement Binge, or maybe you just need music as opposed to conversation. I highly, highly, highly recommend that you check out the playlists that Eric has curated for each of them because they're really, really good. The one that he put together for the Boondock Saints it's a lot of good jams. Definitely very strong Irish themes, a lot of good punk kind of hardcore themes in there too. And it's hard to listen to any of the playlists that he's put together without immediately wanting to be in the mood to watch the film that the playlist was put together for. So you can check those out on Spotify, and they're all linked in the show notes for each episode.
Yeah, that playlist is really, really good. I was super impressed by it. But again, I was super impressed with the review because I absolutely love the Boondock Saints movie. It's actually something that I didn't watch until I was well into my late 20s. It had been out for quite some time, and a buddy of mine was like we were just hanging out. And he's like, I'm going to throw in Boondock Saints. Do you care? And I was like, I don't even know what that is. And he was like, what? um,
Yeah. And we
and
kind of talk about it. It didn't really have a long theatrical release. This is a
no,
movie that gained popularity by word of mouth. You know, you think of it, there's a ton of films that are like that. But if you haven't seen Boondock Saints, if you haven't seen Office Space, if you haven't seen Super Troopers, then you need to get better friends, because it's, you know, like, none of those movies are things that you probably saw in the theaters. You saw them because a friend of a friend of a friend, you know, convinced 8 other friends within your circle to see it, and then eventually you have to see it. And this is one of those movies.
yeah, absolutely. So listeners, it's already, generating traction on the channel. Continue to check that out. It's a really, really good episode. And, The Matrix here, this was a break in the month of January, as I have, this month decided to focus on comic book movies, but not comic book movies that are actually good. It's movies that are widely considered terrible by critics and audiences. I just did Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. I will be doing Catwoman, Daredevil, Batman and Robin, Ghost Rider, and Green Lantern this month. So even though they are, widely considered in every single list that claims the worst comic book movies of all time, there's some of them that I actually really, really enjoy watching, because they're just so bad that I laugh that, people film this stuff and then rewatch it and we're like, yes, let's put this out. So those will be coming all this month, which is going to be really fun. But again, check out, Rob's episode of Boondock Saints. It was really, really good. And Rob, you do it so articulately. Would you run listeners through, before we sign off here, on how they can interact with the show going forward, please?
Of course, I would be happy to, because listener interaction is something that we both really, really love the opportunity to engage in. So please, by all means, sign up for the Facebook group. You can find the show Matt Goes to the Movies on Facebook. You can find the show on Instagram. You can find it on TikTok. There's polls that Matt will put up periodically. Participate in the polls, by all means. Share your thoughts, and your thoughts on any of the reviews. Please post. If you really liked The Matrix Resurrections and we're completely off base, tell us what you liked about it. Certainly we'd love to hear from listeners. There's plenty of people out there right now that are saying that they really like this movie. Matt and I are not two of them, but if you're out there and you really dug this movie, and there's more to it, and there's things that you enjoyed, tell us about it. And certainly as we get through, comic book movie month with some of the ones that appear at the bottom of the list, do you actually like Batman and Robin? Because I actually have parts of that movie I do like. So what are those parts? Tell us about it. Please let us know what you're doing. And if you're wondering if I mean you, yes, you with the AirPods in right now, or driving to work and listening to my voice right now through your speakers, I do mean you. Please interact with the show, email the show, mgttmpodcast@gmail.com. It's just the initials of the show, Matt Goes to the Movies podcast@gmail.com. Please make sure to do that if you want to get something read on the air. We'd be more than happy to hear from you about which of those movies you think are the worst, which ones are actually watchable, which ones are kind of watchable if you're, halfway into a 6-pack and looking for something to laugh at. What's your impressions of those? Because we all have attachments to these movies in ways that we can't justify. Maybe you grew up with one of these movies. Maybe you have an older sibling that made you watch it all the time, and you just have an attachment to it, despite the fact that it's regarded by a lot of people as actually terrible. So please let us know.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, listeners. Like you said, feedback and interaction is always encouraged. We've had some, great feedback about, many of episodes, the Star Wars episodes that we did. I got some really good interaction based on Spider-Man No Way Home. It always helps. It's always interesting to see what people think, especially with this movie that we just did, The Matrix Resurrections, because again, I have heard people say that they absolutely love this. It's their favorite Matrix movie. I would really love to hear why you think that. We encourage that, because if you enjoy this movie, I'm super happy for you. My point of watching movies is to not, dislike them or whatever in between. But the dialogue's always fun. So, keep tuning in, hit that subscribe button, get all the future episodes, especially this month. I think these ones are going to be really, really fun. Would love to hear your thoughts on these. And until next time, thanks for tuning in, listeners.